Divine Transfer Part 2. I am Abe Zucca. Here we are. Metamorphosis of Daphne. All is metamorphosis. The world is a book of changes, and every reading is transformation. What religion calls transubstantiation, poetry calls metamorphosis. By changing, preserve form. By losing form, find meaning. By changing, preserve form. By losing form, find meaning. Every ritual, every word is an act of becoming other. Alexa, next. Make the offering acceptable. The syntax of sacrifice is the grammar of creation. Poetry is liturgy, each sentence a consecration. Every word says, "This is my body, that is my figure." Language itself is transubstantiation. The word made other and flesh made sign. The tree becomes the symbol, the branch, the part for the whole. Symbol is not ornament, but metamorphosis, matter made meaning. Decoration is transformation. Poetry is the ritual of display. To adorn is to consecrate. To figure is to make divine. Every image conceals a sacrifice. Apollo's chase ends not in possession, but in transformation. Daphne's fleeting desire becomes the sign of its sublimation. Laurel purifies, love distills into symbol, passion into permanence. Laura is poetry itself. Petrarch's lady and laurel are one. The poet crowns himself with the leaves of his own loss. In every poem, the beloved turns to tree. Saying makes it so. The poet's word is creation, speech as metamorphosis. Poetry is the archetypal sexual act, the generation of the new from the known. To write is to make love to absence. The lady is the poem, her name a metamorphosis of the word. To love is to transform and be transformed. The lover must be protean, lion, water, tree, boar. Love's law is flux, becoming what one beholds. The body is the first metaphor, the soul its translation. The true fidelity of love lies in the endless change. The tree is the spine of the world and of the man. The anima is arboreal. The spinal column is the axis of transformation. Yoga's laurel, Lebanon's cedar. The lady and the lover are one tree. In becoming rooted, the soul becomes infinite. Orpheus sings, the girl becomes tree, the tree becomes song. Sublimation is the metamorphosis of desire into form. The ear receives the metamorphosed body, the tree in the ear. The poet's love is always unconsummated, therefore eternal. In art, the lover and the beloved meet only as figure and form. The laurel purifies by deferral. The kiss withheld becomes immortal. The still unravished bride is art's image of perfected restraint. Desire purified becomes motionless. The mad pursuit stilled into stillness. The statue, the tree, the saint, Each is the frozen movement of passion. The consummation denied becomes the consummation eternal. The running girl stops forever, and by stopping becomes divine. Every work of art is the corpse of desire transfigured into form. Metamorphosis, the erotic logic of creation. Love is the medium of transformation. Poetry, its right. The lover's pursuit ends in symbol. The god's desire becomes grammar. To figure is to be figured. All things are mutual transubstantiations. The poet's task is not to escape form, but to lose himself in its changing. The final metamorphosis, the poet becomes the laurel he once crowned. The essence of society is repression of the individual, and the essence of the individual is repression of himself. We obtain our theory of unconsciousness from the theory of repression. Only a wish can possibly set our psychic apparatus in motion. The disease called man. One word unlocks the Freudian universe. Repression. Repression is a law written in the flesh. Civilization is repression externalized. The ego, repression internalized. Man is the animal that says no to himself and calls it reason. The psyche is a war within. Desire besieged by its own defense. Madness speaks in riddles. What was meaningless? Dreams, slips, obsessions became meaningful. Meaning is purpose without consciousness. The symptom is a disguised intention. The body speaking in metaphor. Every error is a confession in code, every dream a repressed letter to oneself. The unconscious is language before grammar, poetry before syntax. The unconscious is not a storehouse, but a battlefield. Repression is civil war within the soul. The ego governs by censorship, the id governs by siege. The repressed returns, never as it was, but as a symptom or symbol. A dream is not the wish fulfilled. It is the wish deformed to survive. To live is to compromise with one's own resistance. There are no healthy men, only neurosis that work. Normality is the sociality-approved form of madness. Daylight is repression's hour. Night belongs to the unconscious. Dreaming is universal confession, waking universal denial. Between sanity and psychosis, there is no wall, only a budget of energy. The soul's peace is purchased by its sickness. The psyche moves not by thought, but by desire. Desire is the motor of being repressed, its brake. The pleasure principle draws the map of happiness, the reality principle erases it. To exist is to oscillate between fulfillment and prohibition. Every civilization is an apparatus for delaying pleasure. Under repression, pleasure itself becomes symptom. Reality frustrates, desire resists. The pleasure principle dreams, the reality principle disciplines. Civilization is the great transference. Libido turned into labor. The ego mediates between eros and the world by lying to both. Work is sublimated desire, fatigue is guilt made flesh. The world we call real is a monument to repression. Man is the animal that represses himself. Society is his instrument of self-repression. Culture is the sublimation of guilt, neurosis, its residue. Man's superiority over other animals is his capacity for neurosis. The same energy that builds cities builds symptoms. Civilization and disease are twins, born of the same mother. Universal neurosis is the scientific translation of original sin. The fall becomes repression, Eden becomes the unconscious. To know oneself is to rediscover the forbidden. Every cure repeats the expulsion from paradise. The analyst's couch replaces the confessional, the dream, the prayer. Psychoanalysis is secular penance, redemption without grace. We remain on the surface so long as we treat only of ideas. Repression is not intellectual but emotional. It is passion turned against itself. Ideas are only the clothing of forbidden emotions. The symptom is emotion displaced into ritual. The soul is an erotic machine jammed by its own prudence. The analyst is a midwife to repressed feelings. Desire is energy, repression is storage. Every civilization is an economy of the libido. What cannot be expressed becomes investment. What cannot be spent is symptom. Neurosis is interest compounded on unspent love. The cure is not reason but expenditure. To spin one's repression into revelation. Eros is not destroyed by repression, only made more devious. Repression creates what it forbids. The more civilization refines itself, the more subtle to neurosis it becomes. The unconscious is both prison and paradise, the place where the forbidden still lives. To be human is to desire what one has forbidden oneself to desire. Freedom begins not by escaping repression, but by reorganizing its poetry. The repressed returns as art. Repression equals the form of consciousness under culture. The unconscious equals the persistence of the forbidden wish. Civilization equals the collective dream of disciplined desire. Neurosis equals the symptom of history in the soul. Man equals the animal that represses himself into divinity and disease. The cure equals to turn repression into remembrance. Eros returned to its source. History is a nightmare from which I am trying to awaken. Mankind as a whole passed through conflicts of sexual aggression while left permanent traces. Too long has the world been a madhouse. What appears as an untiring impulsion towards further perfection is the result of repression. The riddle of history is not in reason, but in desire. All men are mad. History is their collective delirium. Civilization is not the cure for madness, it is its method. The normal is the historical form of neurosis. Each epoch is a symptom formation, each empire a dream. History is the slow return of the repressed. Cultures differ as neuroses differ by the structure of repression. Athens was obsessional, Rome hysterical, modernity schizoid. Civilization and the psyche evolve together, each repeating the other's trauma. If the evolution of civilization resembles the development of an individual, then humanity itself is neurotic. The historian is the analyst of civilization's symptom. Each culture dreams the dream it needs to sustain its repression. Neurosis is not static but historical. Every repression begets a symptom, and every symptom seeks its origin. The symptom is history condensed into gesture. The law of the psyche, the repressed always returns closer each time to the forbidden act. The pattern of history is regressive, a spiral around the primal scene. Every revolution is a relapse. History moves by repression and its return. The dialectic of history is the dialectic of neurosis. Religion, politics, art, all are substitute gratifications of repressed desire. Progress is the symptom disguised as improvement. The therapy of history is consciousness, but every cure creates a new repression. Humanity suffers from reminiscences. The collective unconscious is the archive of ancestral guilt. Onthogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Childhood repeats prehistory. The child relives the myth of the tribe reenacts the dream of the child. The unconscious is not private, it is inherited. History is the memory of our forgotten crimes. Religion is the neurosis that remembers. Faith is the compromise between impression and revelation. The sacred is the repressed returning in symbolic form. He reinterpreted it as therapy. Religion says they will be done. Psychoanalysis says who will. To make the unconscious conscious is only true salvation. Mankind's history mirrors the individual's psychic growth and its failures. Totemism, narcissism of the tribe. Religion, dependence on the father. Science, the renunciation of pleasure in favor of control. Each phase claims maturity but conceals regression. Progress is merely repression grown systemic. The poet anticipates Freud because they felt the symptom. The history of a nation is its case history. History is a nightmare for which I am trying to awaken. Too long has the world been a madhouse. Poetry is psychoanalysis without couch. The poet is the analyst of the collective dream. History is driven not by reason but by desire. The unconscious writes the script. Reason edits the subtitles. The cunning of reason is the disguise of the cunning of Eros. Humanity changes not to improve, but to repeat its repression in new form. Civilization's motive is not survival, but sublimation. The historical will to power is the will to love, disguised as labor. Marx defined man by labor. Freud defined him by desire. Labor is sublimated love, repressed Eros building monuments to his loss. The economy is the libido translated into tools. History is not the struggle for bread, but the displacement of hunger. Marxism explains progress. Psychoanalysis explains why it hurts. Man works to master nature because he cannot master himself. Man is the animal that represses, the beast that dreams. His superiority lies in his capacity for neurosis. The city is his symptom, the cathedral his sublimate, the empire his complex. Civilization grows out of anxiety like coral from pain. The repressed instinct never ceases to strive for fulfillment. Culture is the record of its frustrated attempts.